later on, I thought to myself, I'm like, wow, he must have waited to propose to me until I opened my Etsy shop. Like, this is it. This is why.
It's the first time we had back-to-back six-figure months. We did over 100K both of those months. This is insane. Like, we're working like 16, 18-hour days.
And no one knew. Like, we had friends and family that knew of the business, right? But like, we weren't going and telling people about our days or anything.
Yeah.
No, Howard didn't hit a groundbreaking tear moment, did I?
There may have been some tears.
What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 1 of the Grace-Filled Growth Podcast with your hosts, Lauren and Connor. We're a husband and wife team who started selling on Etsy with zero experience, zero design background, and a whole lot of late nights and early mornings. Fast forward to today, and we've done just shy of $2 million in sales on Etsy, left our 9-to-5 jobs, and built a business that gives us freedom, flexibility, and a purpose. To kick things off, we couldn't think of a better way than to share our full story from 0 to 2 million on Etsy. But it didn't happen overnight, and this podcast is where we're going to share everything that we've learned, including the messy middle. So whether you're thinking about starting your journey, starting your shop, or you're already on the journey, this episode will walk you through exactly how we got here.
And by the way, we're starting this podcast for 3 reasons. Number 1, to document our journey from where we're at right now, right around $2 million, all the way to $10 million and beyond. We wish we had documented more of our journey thus far, but we're going to start right now. Along the way, we'll be sharing what worked, what didn't work, and what we're actively doing to grow our own Etsy shops. In full transparency, we're selfishly recording these podcasts to attract other Etsy sellers, just like you, who align with our values and want to work with us to grow their own Etsy businesses. We have a heart that wants to serve others and help them create their version of their freedom. So grab a coffee or throw us on while you fulfill some orders, and let's get into the real behind-the-scenes journey of how Etsy changed our lives.
Awesome. So we're going to begin with how this whole thing started. So when it started back in 2020, you were really just doing it yourself. You were the one that took it off. So Connor's going to kind of tee it up for us and give us some information on how he got to this journey, and how then we'll get later on into it, how we got connected into it together, and now where we are here. So do you want to tee us off?
Yeah, I'll try and set the scene. So back in 2020, when everyone got sent back home from work due to COVID, we were told obviously 2 weeks, and it lasted 2 years. But those first 2 weeks, it was right around the end of March, and it was right around when we were getting ready for Mother's Day. And so my sister actually moved back home for that time period. She was a teacher, but she came back home, and so the house was full again. We were both there, and we were really just trying to think of, like, what could we give my mom for Mother's Day? And for our whole lives, as long as we could remember, there was like this wooden dog that was in our garden, and it was just like a plywood cutout of like a black lab, and it was always just there in the garden. Over the years, like, the feet had rotted away from it, and so for some reason we saw that, or it stood out to us that day, and we thought, how could we maybe recreate that and give my mom a new one of those dogs for that year's Mother's Day? And so we got right to work. We took a spare piece of plywood that my dad had in the garage, and we traced the old dog onto that piece of plywood. We used the jigsaw that we just had at home, cut that out, and then started sanding it, eventually started painting it, and that became the gift for my mom that year. And what's really cool is Lauren and I were dating at that point. We had been dating, I don't know, for a little over a year at that point. And Lauren was over the house that day. And so she was there when we had that idea, when we, went and found the plywood, started to cut that first dog out. And yeah, it's just really cool to look back on now, because she's been there from the beginning. She wasn't necessarily involved with the business at that point, and we'll get into more details of that. but she was there from day one, which is really cool. And so from there, we made that first dog. We gave it to my mom for Mother's Day. We actually made a bulldog version for Lauren's mom, and gave that to her. And some of my sister's friends started hearing that we were making these dogs or these different cutouts, and they wanted their own. And so I started making a couple others for other people, and it really just dawned on us, or I think my sister actually was the one who was like, hey, maybe we could sell these on Etsy, right? Like there's clearly a want for them. There's demand. People are asking for their own personalized custom cutouts of their dogs, their silhouettes. And maybe it's something we could sell on Etsy and maybe turn into a business. And so at that point, I had never heard of Etsy. Well, maybe I'd heard of it, but I definitely hadn't like gone to the website to buy anything. It was definitely like a very woman focused thing in my mind. And so I had no reason to be there, but I started just researching how to sell on Etsy because it was intriguing to me. Up until this point in my life, at that time I was an engineer, and I would work as an engineer for years after that time period when we first started the Etsy shops. But I always wanted to have like a side hustle. I always wanted like a side business to be able to create additional income, just kind of get ahead, set myself and my family up in the future for just a better life and to have that freedom. And so I would lay in bed and just dream of potentially having a business, but never really took action. I was like that entrepreneur who wants to be a business owner, but never really takes a step. And I did that for years, probably, always thinking of ideas of things that I could do. And then this kind of just fell into our laps. And I remember thinking like, hey, maybe this is it. Like maybe I should just go all in on this and let's see what happens. And so that's what I did. I remember like very, very early on in that journey, I remember being back on the back patio where we do a lot of the wood cutting at that time. And I remember thinking like, my number one goal right now, like, I don't know where this is going to take us, but I was like, I want to stick with it. And in 5 years, if I can have a business that's grown to the point where I need to make a hard decision between my engineering job and my business, then I will know that I've succeeded. And so I don't know why that thought came to me at that point. I think it was because number one, I'd heard stats of like most businesses, go out of business within their first year or two. And so I was like, I don't want to quit. I don't want to give up. I want to get through 5 years and give it my all and see where it takes us. And so we did just that. We kept doing the wood stuff probably for like 2 years, and slowly but surely just learning through YouTube and figuring things out with my whole family. I mean, it was like all hands on deck. My dad's basement turned into a workshop. During those busy seasons,
everyone got involved.
Yeah, Lauren was coming over. My sister was there helping. My mom would come over.
People got involved that didn't think they would be involved. They got involved.
Right. And even Lauren, like, she was lending her car, so she'd come over as we were hanging out. Obviously, we were dating, and she had a Subaru Tribeca SUV. And
Thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah, at the time, your favorite car. And so we would use that as like the vehicle to go get the plywood as we'd get lots of orders and needed to stock up on the inventory.
We'd shove as much as we could in that car to get the plywood.
Yeah, crazy times. So lots of trips to Lowe's and Home Depot to get that wood back then. But slowly but surely, the orders started flowing in, and it became busier and busier. We added more and more listings, different silhouettes and yard art, not just animals, but different decorations for Halloween, for Christmas, things like that. And by the time we got to our first Christmas, it was pretty crazy. And remember, I was working a full-time engineering job at this point, and so I had crazy days with my real job. And I remember, like, at that point, I left my sound on my phone for my Etsy notifications. I just still thought it was cool to hear the cha-chings.
It still is cool. It's
It
just
still is
a
cool,
different phase now.
but it gets overwhelming. And I remember like waking up at 5 a.m. and just hearing like 3 cha-chings back to back to back, and just my heart racing. Like I had a busy day at work, and like all these orders just came in. And at that point we were making our own orders. And so we had to cut the item out. We had to sand it down. We had to seal it. We had to paint it. We had to
And mind you, it was winter time. So daylight was against us at that point.
Yeah.
Well, you really had to figure it out.
Yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, we had to do all that stuff. And I remember like I'd go out on my lunch breaks or right at the end of the day before the sun went down and cut on our back patio, which
Or 8 a.m. after the curfew, right? Wasn't it?
yeah. And so it like in the snow sometimes during that time, which was just crazy. And yeah, so we learned a lot during that period. It was an amazing time, especially the time I get to spend with my dad working on all those items and just refining our process and just learning about business, learning about shipping, learning Etsy at that time period. And so, yeah, we did that for about 2 years. The second Christmas really went crazy. So I was just referring to that first Christmas, but we stuck with it. We got to that second Christmas and it was just even more insane. We were definitely way more prepared. We knew what would be coming, but it was still crazy. We started dealing with like broken items. So the items were made out of plywood and we had custom packaging. We'd do our best to package them in a way that things wouldn't get damaged. But inevitably some things would get damaged. And when that happens, when you make your own physical items, is like you have to remake the item. And so it just adds more time when you don't have any time. And so it was crazy. The other thing that was really challenging at that time was like taking a break. And so both those years, Lauren and I actually went home to Colorado, where she's from, to see her family. And like we'd go for maybe a week and a half, right around Christmas time. And what I did at that time is I would just extend the processing time on our listings. I didn't want to shut the shop down. And it was reasonable for customers. They felt like, you know, these are really custom items, like they're made to order. And so they were more okay with a little longer processing time. They'd still get their item. So I would extend that like a week. And while we were at Lauren's visiting in Colorado, like the orders would just keep flowing in, and I would come home with like this huge backlog of work to do. And it honestly was super overwhelming.
Little did I know I was having a great vacation, just so you know. And he's panicking inside because he was trying to enjoy the vacation as well, right?
Yeah.
So deep down, he was in full panic mode, and I was in La La Land, happy as a clam on my break.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'm glad it was a happy time for you. It was happy for me as well, but definitely overwhelming. Because I knew like we'd get back home and I'd have like 1 or 2 days before I went back to work. And those days would just be consumed with like catching up on the business. And so right around that time, I think following the second Christmas that we were doing the woodworking business is when I stumbled across print on demand. As I was just like trying to learn on YouTube how to improve and sell better on Etsy. And I remember just like being so blown away. It was like one of those nights, and this has only happened maybe a few times in my life, where it's like so revolutionary, where like your mind is so blown, like you discover something or find something that you're like, this could change everything. And I remember feeling that way. And I was just so blown away that people were selling on Etsy and selling crazy numbers at that time. And even today, print on demand items that they didn't have to touch any inventory. They didn't have to do any shipping, any packing themselves. They could just create digital designs, put them on a product like a t-shirt or a sweatshirt or a coffee mug, and a production partner would do all the extra work for them. And that was so enticing to me after everything we had been through with the wood shop. I could just see how much easier it was going to be to scale that type of business. And I started to doubt right away. I started to dabble in print on demand and during that year. And so, yeah, right away, like I think I got my first sale within the first week. It was like a Valentine's Day shirt. And I'm glad I got that first sale, because I don't know if I would have kept pursuing it, because after that first sale, like the next 3 months, like crickets, no sales at all. I was putting up like terrible products, had no idea what I was doing, was just like throwing spaghetti
It was
at
like
the wall.
mass produced.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
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 But I'm thankful that I got that first sale, because it hooked me. It was like, this is possible. A random customer did buy one design from me. And so I was sold. And so I just kept pursuing it after that. And very quickly it started to catch up to the revenue and the profit that the wood shop was doing. And so we were kind of doing those both in parallel at the same time.
But your wood shop at the time started to slow down enough for you to be able to explore
Yeah.
print on demand, right?
Yeah. Slow down in the sense that it wasn't the Christmas
rush.
season, right?
Yeah.
So I had more time, in those more evergreen months or the off season months. And yeah, so I want to fast forward. The next thing that we wanted to touch on in our story here is just fast forwarding to more of 2022. And so at this point in my life, Lauren and I had been dating for a few years at this point, and I decided that I wanted to ask Lauren to marry me.
So nice.
And obviously we're married now, so it all worked out. But
It's been great too, by the way.
part of me making that decision meant that I wanted to move out of my dad's place, and I wanted to move up closer to Lauren. She lived in New Hampshire at that time. I lived in Massachusetts at that time. And so we were just under an hour away. And when I made the decision, I'm going to ask Lauren to marry me, I decided I'm going to move up to New Hampshire. I'm going to get my own apartment. I'm going to live 1 mile away from Lauren, right down the road.
Yes, we did not live together until we got married.
Yep.
Oh.
And so I moved up there, and with that decision, it kind of forced me to close down the Etsy shop that I was doing the woodworking business through. It just wasn't feasible at that time for me to rent a space, rent a warehouse or a workshop, or even drive back and forth to my dad's. It was the right time where I was ready to close down that shop and that part of the business. And like we had been talking about, the print on demand stuff really had started to grow at that point. And I made the decision to just go all out on the POD. And so that's what I did. And at that time, when I made that decision, I stumbled across Jesse. And so many of you guys know Jesse. Jesse's the owner of Inner Circle Prints now. And at that point, which Inner Circle Prints is a fulfillment company for those of you guys who don't know. Mm-hmm. And at that point, Inner Circle Prints didn't exist, but Jesse was wildly successful in his own Etsy business, like had 4 amazing Etsy shops, had done over 10 million in sales on Etsy, like absolutely crushed it. And he was selling a course at that time and some coaching. And I stumbled across Jesse on YouTube, or not on YouTube, on Instagram, actually.
It was an ad, right?
Maybe an ad or just a post popped up on my Instagram. And this is right after I had moved up to New Hampshire into my own apartment. And I was like, I'm going to go all in on POD. I stumbled across Jesse and I was like, this is amazing. Like, how can I learn from this guy? And so I sent him a DM and I was like, I want to be coached by you. I want to take your course. Like, I want to learn from you. And so, I signed up for his course. I remember talking to Lauren at that time. It felt expensive to me. Like, I felt like it was a lot of money.
It was an investment.
Yeah, an investment at that point to just work with Jesse. But I remember talking to Lauren and being like, I think this is what I should do. I think this will take me to the next level.
And I think that was like the first time in this business area that we weren't doing it together, that I felt like we were low key making a decision together in a way, but he was doing it. I was like, we just talked through some things and how realistic it was. And it's always nerve wracking to go into any course or any learning anything. You're really putting a lot of faith into what you're learning, but also you need to execute. And so I think we kind of talked through that and ultimately ended up making the decision to jump in and go all in on it. And yeah.
Yeah. And so made that decision, took the course with the coaching with Jesse, and we'll get further along in our journey, but that was like the best investment I've ever made. Right. And so looking back on it, it's really cool to see. So pretty much right after taking that course, I implemented what I had learned or some of the basic things and just saw crazy growth in my print-on-demand shop. So I was selling t-shirts and sweatshirts at that time and immediately saw that growth. And so it was really cool to see that it was working and the business was growing.
I remember coming over to his apartment one night and he had this notebook that was like so thickly filled out with all the information that you learned from his course too. Like it was just so crazy. Like he was so serious about this. And I was like, wow, like, okay, this is really wild, but okay. Like I'll join alongside you and cheer you on. But you were very like, you weren't messing around with it. You were going all in. You really committed to it. So it's just really cool to see that.
Yeah. And I'll just highlight again, like I was still working my engineering job at that point. And like, I look back and that was like one of the best seasons of my life in terms of growth, I think. It was the first time I lived by myself on my own. And so that was a whole learning curve, but also just like going all in on the business by myself at that point. Like I was getting up at 4:30 in the morning, like putting in a few hours of work before I started my day. And I did that consistently for months.
You worked like 4 hours.
Yeah.
In the morning
before I would
work
start my
started,
day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just really cool to look back on that and see how far we've come from that point. So continuing our story, right around that time, I had just moved up to New Hampshire that spring in 2022, and Lauren's family actually invited me to go on a family cruise with them at that point. I was lucky enough to get
This is not where he proposed, you guys. Don't worry.
No, everyone thought I was going to propose.
Including myself.
Probably including Lauren, maybe some of our family as well. So maybe that was why I got invited on the trip. But
I don't think so.
We went, no, probably not. So we went on an Alaskan cruise that summer, right over the 4th of July. It was amazing. And I already had the ring at this point, so it would have been a good opportunity. I was actually afraid to bring the ring because we
had to go through customs.
Right. We started in Canada. And so I was afraid to bring it over the border and them to stop me. And
me to know.
I would be with Lauren and they'd want me to claim the value or whatever.
Yeah.
So I was afraid of that. I had read like horror stories online. And so I was like, all right, I'm just going to wait. We're going to enjoy the vacation. I'll do it later this summer when we get back. And so that's what we did. We were on the cruise, but I wanted to bring that part up because there's such a contrast in the two businesses, the woodworking and then the print on demand. So like I said, I had just taken Jesse's course. I'd seen like huge growth in the business. I was getting consistent daily orders, like 20, 30, maybe 40 plus orders a day at that point, and was still able to run that business while we were on the cruise, while we were at sea traveling and enjoying vacation. And so I remember getting up early on the boat. I would just go up into the lounge, spend like a half hour fulfilling orders, and then I would enjoy the rest of the day. And I remember thinking like how amazing this is compared to how it used to be when we'd come back to Colorado over Christmas and the orders would pile up and I'd be overwhelmed and have so much work when I got back. And that didn't happen with this business model with print on demand, and I could just continue to run the business.
You wanted to keep cruising.
Right.
I'm just kidding.
Yes, I wanted to keep cruising.
Yeah.
And so from there, we made it back from the cruise, obviously. And a month later is when I decided to ask Lauren to marry me. And so we got engaged. And so one thing happened before we got engaged, actually. So we made it back from the cruise, and then I'll let Lauren pick up the next part of the story.
Yeah. So, I saw Connor doing all of this Etsy stuff, and I saw that it was like becoming a legit thing. Like, it was making income, and he was loving it and the freedom of it. And I just saw like glimpses of it, like he said on the cruise. And then he still could enjoy like life and not be consumed by everything, which was really awesome. So early August, I think the end of July, early August, he was like, you should create an Etsy shop. And I was like, yeah, I'm all set. And then he's like, no, I think it would be really good for you to create one. This is like the perfect time leading up to Q4. Like, you could hit the ornament season really well. And I was like, okay, whatever. Like, I have nothing to lose. Wasn't loving my job at the time. And I was like, this is something I think I could enjoy. Who doesn't like to try and design? Which is something that I tried to do. And ultimately what ended up happening was I did open the Etsy shop and actually got a kind of outline of the course that Connor learned through Jesse. He gave it to me. So I got like the spark notes of it, the quick notes, while also having like a coach to kind of get me through it. But the funny part is throughout that month, we came up with this whole schedule and like how I was going to implement it. I was also working full time in the office. So it was like navigating that schedule and how am I going to do this and all of that fun stuff as well. So then he decided to propose later that month in August 21st, right? I think so. And so later on, I thought to myself, I'm like, wow, he must have waited to propose to me until I opened my Etsy shop. Like, this is it. This is why. It's not true. I confirmed it, right?
I promise that was not the reason. I had the ring for months and months beforehand.
It just was this little thought, as we all have little thoughts. It was a joke thought, but I was like, wow, this is amazing. I should open 10 more Etsy shops. But no, all jokes aside, it was crazy. I learned so much. Connor taught me what he had learned and implemented in his shirt shop at the time. And it was just like the light bulb went off for me. He helped me create this whole schedule, like I said, and, helped me through the research, helped me get my photo templates all set up, helped me get the designs dialed in so that they were making sense for the micro markets or niches. Like, it was all like coming together in a sense that there was no spaghetti being thrown at the wall. Thankfully, because you were able to help. He kind of was my guardrails, essentially. Like, I was able to ask you questions and you were able to support me. But I think ultimately I ended up getting like 50 listings up, right?
Just under 50, I think.
Yeah. And it was an unbelievably blessed season for me. It just was. We were not working together at the time, although he was mentoring me, but it was my shop that he helped me open and create. And it completely changed my whole life in the sense of the job that I was not loving and trying to get out of, but didn't know how to get out of it, became like this switch that came on where it was like, I just made, I think, $2,000 or $3,000 extra for that season, which was more than I needed. Like, I was able to quit my job and leave it early and go back to Colorado to be able to spend time with my family and then start a new job in the beginning of the year. So it gave me that time frame to be able to cover more than 2 weeks of time off, essentially.
Yeah. I remember, obviously you were thinking about getting a new job. A new opportunity came your way and you ended up taking that job. And the plan at that time was, okay, I'm going to start the beginning of the following year, that January. Yeah. And I remember you just coming to the realization and feeling so much relief in the fact that you had just like generated $2,000 to $3,000 in profit. And that gave you so much peace to be like, okay, I don't need to work right up to my last day of work, like the end of the year, and then start my new job the next day. Like, I've made this money, which covers the weeks that maybe I'm not going to work, and more so. and I can go home for Christmas. We can go back again and take a week and a half off and go see family, and then I'll come back and start the new job. And so, yeah, I just remember like that gave you so much freedom and peace at that time in your life.
Yeah, I had this like weird sense of like once I made that money, and again, to me, like that was everything I needed. Like it was more than I needed and everything I needed at the time. Like I was living paycheck to paycheck, like just hoping for the best and trying to be responsible, but wasn't making a lot working at a nonprofit. And so any extra income at the time was a game changer. And it did take a lot of early mornings and late nights. Like I remember waking up at like 5 a.m. to fulfill orders, or coming back home and didn't see any friends. Got together with him and I was like, gotta fulfill, like, can you help me? So yeah, it was a game changer, and it took just this weight off of me that I had. I was just not in a good headspace. I remember being miserable actually for like the fall season, just not loving anything about my job and praying about how can I get out of this, and just little thing, like it kind of snowballed. And yeah, so it just was a really wild experience, and I'm grateful that he introduced me to it, and I actually took the bait and decided to do it as well.
Yeah, the other thing I want to make sure we hit on here at this point is like it wasn't just easy, right? It didn't just, the sales started to come in because she did well with her launch and executed well, but it was very challenging that season. Like it was overwhelming. She hit on it a little, like she was working early in the morning, late at night to fulfill orders. But at this point, guys, the only option for Christmas ornaments at that time was really through Printify. And very few sellers were selling them. And so that's why there was a huge opportunity. But what ended up happening is there were tons of quality issues. It was a nightmare for customer service reasons. That Printify actually ran out of the circle ornaments at that time.
Yeah, I remember distinctly. I was in the office at work and I was texting him. Thank goodness he was at home. This was on our lunch break. And I was in sheer panic. Like it was the heat of the season of Q4, and I had orders. To me at that time, it felt like a ton of orders, and I was freaking out. I couldn't fulfill, didn't know what to do. They ran out of the circle ornaments. I cannot afford to return or refund these customers. Like I need that money. I can't just like dish that back out to them. So I'm talking to him, and he's like, checking in the background, and cause he's at home working, and, well, I guess, yeah, like I said, we were on our lunch break, but, he looked and noticed that, hey, there's the oval ornaments. Those are still in stock. And I'm like, nobody's going to want these. Like literally, like just call the shop off. Like there's just no chance. And so he was able to help me kind of get that going and just get that set up and be able to kind of flip that gear. We did have some customers that didn't love that idea. So I did have to cancel and refund. It's just reality. But ultimately, like that was one thing I noticed, like when with him, like we weren't obviously married at that time, but I knew I could rely on someone like that. Like I knew in the time that I was in what it felt to me like earth-shattering news, basically I had nothing else to do, no other production partner to go to. I knew that I could rely on him to be able to help support me, which was like, there's no words to that. That is such a blessing. And so he was able to help me be able to flip that around and kind of get what we needed going again for the customers. We were able to fulfill them with the oval ornaments. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it just like brings me back.
It was crazy.
So crazy.
I remember like at one point, because in my shirt shop, I did some personalization, but it wasn't 100% personalized at that time. And so a lot of the orders, it was very quick to fulfill. But when she did ornaments, like literally 100% of her orders were personalized.
It wasn't just like a name. It was name, date, maybe sometimes location. It was the full thing.
Yeah. And so it was a lot of work. And I remember her coming over one night after she was out of work and her showing me like how many orders she had left.
I don't know how we didn't hit a groundbreaking tear moment, did I?
There may have been some tears, but
I think I was numb.
I remember thinking like I don't know how many, it was probably over 100 orders like you had built up in your queue.
I was so behind. Like,
and I remember just thinking like it would be reasonable if she just like gave up right now. Like a normal person would probably just like throw in the towel. Like she has a crazy schedule to begin with. She doesn't have time to do all this, but she didn't even think that for a second. And so that moment for me was like huge. Like I knew that whatever we did eventually when we go into business together, that like she was the person I wanted to do it with. And yeah, so that was an important moment in our time together. I think just seeing that,
each other then.
Yeah, kind of just thrown into the fire and really not still working separately in our businesses, but being close enough to each other to observe what was going on.
And I felt like at that time too, like I had always trusted you, but it was an extra layer. Now we were engaged, and I knew that this was becoming something legitimate. And so it just felt like we were really moving towards that path of like, we are a team. Like we will be functioning as a team, although we're doing separate businesses, but we can still support each other and still help each other pursue our goals of whatever it is. So that was, it was a really wild experience, but it was so eye-opening. Like it was eye-opening in the sense of like, it was a different type of stress. Like it didn't feel like, I don't know. It didn't feel like a work, like in the office work stress type thing. It was we have to figure this out or you will fail ultimately, which seems a bit abrupt, but it was literally what I felt. I was like,
no, what you were feeling was what every business owner goes through when they realize that like, if I don't do it, it's not going to get done. Yeah. And a lot of people crumble, they give up at that point, but you didn't.
And I think the other thing too, like, but besides like the profit and like getting the orders and that, like my other thought, which was my main thought, was I have these customers that are like really wanting this as a gift. Like my whole process, our whole thought is like, these are unique gifts for these like customers that want to give this as a gift. And like, I do not want to be the reason that they cannot do that. And so that was like the forefront for me. I'm like, besides me failing or not getting it done, like these people, I am serving these people. Like I need to fulfill this. And so, it just was such a crazy experience and definitely couldn't have done it like all by myself. Thankfully, Connor was able to help me to some extent, but I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it was really crazy.
So I think that leads us into the beginning of 2023. Mm-hmm. So we got through that Christmas season. And this is really when I think the two of us started to learn to work together. And it was really because we were starting to plan our wedding, right? We were getting married that following August of 2023. And so we were really going into a season of like heavy wedding planning, and we were doing that together. And also at this time is when Jesse, who I mentioned earlier, this is when he formed Inner Circle Prints, the production fulfillment company. So similar to Printify. And at this point, I remember us having another discussion, like, should we, sign up for this thing? And at this point, again, it was another big investment. We were also obviously more familiar with Jesse at that point. We had seen the success that we were able to achieve, or that was potential. And we signed up right away. I think like within 24 hours, maybe within 12 hours of when Jesse announced that Inner Circle Prints was going to be a real thing, we signed up, made the payment, we were all in. And one of the things that sold us was he was going to be offering Christmas ornaments with a gift box. Yeah. And we knew the quality was going to be there.
Yeah, Jesse had sold ornaments in the past, and they were pristine quality compared to what Printify is wonderful. They've got it dialed in now, but at that time it was just not there. So we were like, obviously this makes complete sense. This man knows exactly what he's doing. Why wouldn't we believe him and jump all in? And
so we joined Inner Circle Prints that January. And what's unique about that time is the software actually wasn't ready yet. So it was kind of like a pre-launch thing that Jesse did, like sign up, you'll get it for this price, you'll get access to Inner Circle prints when it launches in a few months. And so
March, I think,
around March.
Yeah, March.
And so all we really knew was there's going to be 2 products to start. It's going to be skinny 20-ounce tumblers and Christmas ornaments. And so we spent the next 3 months preparing for skinny tumblers for like a Mother's Day launch. We had seen that Jesse and a couple other sellers had just like absolutely crushed it with that product in previous years. And like I said, the software wasn't ready until March. And so we spent those few months like really preparing, getting ready. And I remember us having that conversation, like when we spent that money, we made the investment, and we had the conversation like, we need to go all in on this. We need to like give it our all to get our money's worth and to see the fruits of our labor. And I remember we set one goal. We were like, we're going to be the top students at ICP, and we're not going to let our effort or lack of effort prevent us from getting to that point. And so we had seen so many people achieve the success that we wanted to. We knew it was possible. We just had to put in the work. And so we made the decision, like together, the both of us were going to go all out on Lauren's shop at that time, where she had sold the Christmas ornaments, and we're going to prepare for the Mother's Day season. And so I completely put my t-shirts on the back burner, and we went all out together on that business, preparing for that tumbler launch. And yeah, I think that was just like the time in our life where we learned to work together as a team. And it really started with the wedding planning. I remember like we had a couple calls with Jesse, coaching calls at that time, where he was coaching us. And at that time in my apartment, he'll remember this story, but it was like littered with sticky notes. Like it wrapped around the corner. Yeah. We had like everything we needed to do for our wedding planning. And so we were like knee deep in it, but it's really cool to look back on.
Yeah. We did it all together. There was no one-sided, I do it, he does it. It was, our whole mentality was if we're committing to this life together, we are doing this life together. There is not, oh, you get to do that part, I get to do this. We work together. And so we made that commitment, and it worked beautifully for us for the wedding planning, like we talked about. And then I remember distinctly, we were swamped with working full time and all other commitments that were going on. We wrote in our calendars that we would have Thursday night wedding session, like planning moments or whatever, meetings. And it worked. It was super cool. Yeah. But basically the reason why we're even sharing that is that it carried through into the business. We obviously hit our rough paths and stuff like that, but we knew that we could work together. If we worked together and not against each other, we were going to be far more better off.
Yeah. And we knew we had a huge advantage compared to other sellers who only have one person, right? So we leaned into that. And I think, so we had a good Mother's Day launch. I think we did very well. It was probably one of the best months at that time that we had ever had, with those tumbler sales. And so we kept working on those tumblers, kept building that shop. That was our sole focus outside of our jobs and planning for the wedding. And fast forward through that summer, we ended up getting married in August of that year, August of 2023. And we made the decision, like leading up to it, we talked in great detail, like, what are we going to do about the Etsy shop? Like, we're getting a lot of daily orders now. We're building momentum. We know how big Christmas can be. Like, we don't want to lose this momentum. But we're only going to get married once. We're only going to go on our honeymoon once. Yeah. And we wanted to enjoy it. We wanted to be fully
present. Like, we just wanted to be able to soak in every single minute of our lives, transforming into this new chapter with our friends and family. And so, what'd we end up doing?
Yeah, so we ended up putting our shop on vacation mode for 2 weeks, which is like taboo in the Etsy world.
Honestly, in full transparency, we had no idea. But at the end of the day, like, this chapter and like getting married and this next phase in life, like, if that derailed it, we would have figured it out to some extent of something other than, you know, our shops. But to me, I think to you, it was the best decision we made. We were fully present. We weren't distracted with, you know, messages and orders and all this stuff while, you know, experiencing this life-changing moment for ourselves.
Yeah.
And I don't know, let's talk about what ended up happening when we got back.
Yeah. So I guess real quick before we got back, I think for anyone thinking of doing that, the one thing that we made sure to do is we went into it with a plan. We went into the vacation mode with a plan. We planned to have a bunch of new listings ready to go. Like right when we got back, we planned to drop our prices to accelerate that growth and to kind of build that momentum again. We did various things like that. I think you can set a message to go to people who have favorited your shop to let them know like when you're reopen, and so they'll get notified. So we did these various things to just prepare and kind of counteract any momentum that we had lost.
And the other thing too, that just to go off what Connor was saying, is like, again, it goes back to our efforts, right? So we didn't want to be, you know, on our wedding week and then our honeymoon thinking, you know, about our workshop and what we didn't do to prepare. So we did. That was another thing, and I remember that now that you bring that up more, that we did sit down. We sat down in July, I think, and we planned out, like, how can we prepare ourselves and then also launch ourselves to get back from this vacation mode. And that was exactly it. We planned to have those listings. We planned to, you know, do the price drop like Connor said. And so just going off of that, like, it wasn't like, forget it. Like, we're just gonna
right. Yeah, there was a plan.
Call
going
it a
in
day
with it.
here and whatever. There was very intentional plans in it and very intentional conversations that we had, so that, you know, it would also launch us into a good spot too. Being newlyweds, we were like, yeah, we can still do this and we can do it together, but even better, right? So, I'm glad you brought that up.
So yeah, we got back from our honeymoon, amazing honeymoon, and we went right into it. So I moved into Lauren's place at this time. Like we said, we were living separately until we got married. So I moved in right after our wedding, and we started to execute our plan that we had set up. So we had a bunch of new listings we were ready to post, and we shifted our focus at that time, early September, right into preparing for Christmas, those Christmas ornaments. We had seen what Lauren had done in the previous year. This year we could now offer a gift box, and we were just ready to absolutely crush it. And we were super excited and like so focused and dialed in at that point. And yeah, fast forward a couple months, November and December that year, that was the first time we had back-to-back six-figure months. We did over 100K both of those months. And yeah, that was really cool to see, just like how it all came together, us like starting to work together as a team, and what the results were because of that, instead of us, you know, working separately on two different shops. And so it started to like really all pay off, and it was just really cool to see that growth at that time.
It was stressful though.
Yeah.
It definitely was.
Yeah, for sure.
It was really cool to see, but it was a lot of late nights. I remember distinctly playing Christmas music. Like, I just love Christmas music. So for any of those people that don't, I'm sorry, but it's just such a joyful sound. So we played that music throughout. I mean, I think we were working till midnight.
Yeah. This is like one of the reasons we want to start creating content and doing these podcasts and YouTube videos. Because I remember we had this conversation at the time where we were like, this is insane. Like, we're working like 16, 18-hour days, including our jobs. And like, no one's seeing us do this. Like,
and no one knew. Like, we had friends and family that knew of the business, right? But like, we weren't going and telling people about our days or anything.
Yeah.
We just, that's just kind of how we operate. Like, we put our head down and we have a job to do. We are going to get it done. That is how we work.
yeah.
And it was
I remember us
really
joking,
wild.
like, we need to be filming this. Like, we should send this in to the ICP team
Yeah.
and like show them, because they were fulfilling tons of orders for us every day. But we never ended up recording it. But
We did take a picture, I think. We'll have to
Yeah.
find it, but
yeah, so I guess we made it through that season. It was the craziest time of our life, I would say. We weren't prepared. You never really can be prepared for that Q4 season. It's always crazier than you think, but we made it through it. We got on the other side. We had amazing results, really good profits that
yeah,
year.
I think it was also just a sense of like, wow, like if we can do that, like what can't we do?
Yeah.
Basically, like it just changed our perspective even more.
Mm-hmm.
And like to go back to the way beginning, like I had no idea that this could be an opportunity. Like I didn't even have a thought in my mind that this would be a thing. Not because I didn't think it would work. I don't know. I loved my newer job and I just loved what I was doing. And I was like, this is sweet. Like we can do this, every Christmas and let the rest of it go.
Yeah.
Kind of go, and we'll see what happens. That changed, don't worry. But yeah, it's been interesting.
Yeah. So I think right around that time, maybe a little before, so my sister was also interested in starting her own Etsy shop. And I remember at that time, I finally talked her into doing Christmas ornaments as well. Like Lauren had described, the previous year she used Christmas and ornaments to like launch her shop. And so I encouraged my sister to do kind of the same thing. And so she started working around the same time Lauren had the previous year, like preparing, getting ready. And eventually she had like, I think 50 listings ready to go at that time, kind of the same path that Lauren was following. And I remember reaching out to Jesse because the Inner Circle Prints application at that time was closed. Like they weren't focused on taking new clients. They were just like preparing for Christmas and the production that would come. And my sister had done all this work getting ready. Like she had the 50 listings ready to go with featuring a gift box. She just didn't have the production partner connected.
And Connor did like the very similar thing. Like he was very hands-on, very supportive, very like spark notes type deal. Same thing with me. So the process was clearly working, right? And then what Kelsey ended up saying?
Yeah, so we ended up talking to Jesse and we were like, my sister has all these listings ready to go. Like she was planning on signing up for ICP. I know registration's closed. Like, is there any way you can take on one more person? And Jesse made that happen. He let my sister come on board onto ICP and use them as a fulfillment partner at that time. And for those of you guys who aren't as aware, like it was more exclusive at that point. Inner Circle Prints now is more open to the public, but at that point you needed to be part of coaching. It was a very exclusive group, a small number of sellers, so that the production team could kind of limit and kind of cap that production and deliver that quality. It's grown significantly since then. It's more open to the public, way more users now. The production team's well more equipped. So yeah, that just wanted to highlight that. And so, yeah, I think my sister maybe was Jesse's last coaching client that he ever took on, which is kind of wild to think about. And she had her first couple coaching calls with Jesse, like right before that Christmas season, just to make sure things were ready to go. And she was prepared with getting everything linked up. And at that point, I think she mentioned to us like, oh yeah, Jesse mentioned like, I'm going to be his last coaching client. Like he's planning on bringing on other people to help coach his students through Inner Circle Prints.
Yeah.
And at that point, Lauren and I don't even know if both of us had really thought of this, but maybe we had talked about it. I had like dreamed of eventually at some point in our journey, like doing some type of coaching or course or content myself, and probably eventually together, to help other people, just like we're starting to do now, and to share my experiences and so I was already interested in that side of things. And I remember hearing that from my sister and being like, wow, that's amazing. Imagine if like we could be part of that and we could help other people achieve the success that
and
we had.
And mind you, I think that we talked about in like June or July, I don't know if you remember this, but I was like, I think one day we're going to work for Jesse. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know why I said that. I just felt like we were so connected. The values were just so there. We had never met this guy, by the way. So
Just coaching calls.
Just on coaching calls, just on Zoom, but just the energy and just like his values and, you know, everything that he brought was just to serve and give back. And, I just had this feeling. I was like, I told Connor, I was like, I really think that one day we're going to get the opportunity to work with Jesse.
Yeah.
And so anyways, I just wanted to share that because, well, we're obviously teeing it up, but, where'd it go from here?
Yeah. So we had a call with Jesse, a coaching call at, I think,
to help us get prepared for our Q4.
Well, no, it was like right in the middle of Q4. Like we were swamped with orders, overwhelmed.
You're right.
And we met with him just to like check in and see how things were going and see if he could give us any tips of how to make things more efficient. And we mentioned on that call, like, hey, we talked to my sister. We heard you had a couple calls with her. We heard you mentioned like you're wanting to have other people coach, and he was like, yeah, that's what I'm looking to do. And we were like, well, if you ever are looking for other people, you may already have someone lined up, but in the future, as you grow, if you're ever looking for people to potentially coach, we'd be really interested in doing that. That's something that we've thought about. And he was like, oh, really? And at that point, it was like too crazy. Production was wild. Like the daily orders were crazy. And he was like, well, let's talk in like early January and like, let's touch base when things slow down and we'll see where you guys are at and we can talk then. And so, yeah, I guess fast forward to that January time.
I didn't know what was going to come from it. Like, I was like, awesome. Like we've planted the seed. Let's see what happens with it. Jesse was into it, but you know, life is crazy and Q4 brings the unknown of goodness and ugliness at the same time. So I really didn't know, but I was hopeful. But it was early January. I remember distinctly where we were. We were in Arizona, and Jesse reached out and we had another meeting and we, you know, were able to start coaching. Essentially, we came on as coaches, and we still are today, which is so cool. So it just evolved. The whole process has evolved in so many ways that I never would have thought. Yeah.
And I think a lot more went into that.
Yeah.
Like it was a couple meetings. We ultimately like agreed on what we were going to do when we were in Arizona in January that year. But Lauren and I had to think and pray a lot about that decision. It was really scary to us to like step into coaching because number one, I was someone who was shy. I didn't like being on camera and stuff. And so I was going to have to be on a bunch of Zoom calls with people. That was one thing. The other thing was like, we were stepping into a season where we were now going to be like coaching and helping our direct competition.
Yeah.
And therefore like hurting our own business, right? Ultimately. And
because we still actively sell, right? So yeah, it was definitely at the forefront.
Yeah. And so, yeah, we had to think and pray a lot about that decision. Ultimately, we made the decision to do it because we wanted to help people. I remember us setting one goal or kind of like one mission as we started coaching. We were like, we want everyone who we coach to have the opportunity to have more success than we've ever had.
Yep.
And we truly wanted to have the heart of a teacher. And to me, that means like your students surpass you one day, right? That they'll do better than you if you truly have that heart of a teacher and you successfully teach them and train them.
Yeah. And I remember too, like just as we did embark that journey, like at least I felt, and I'm pretty sure you did too, even though we didn't celebrate like we would usually. But I remember when like we were coaching students and still coach students when they got their first sales or, you know, with whatever they were doing. I didn't even care what happened in our day. Like, I was so excited for that because, like, that was just one step closer, right? Like, that, they get that feeling that we got, right? And so that was really the goal, and that still is the goal. That is our core value, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We continuously say that to ourselves in our head, and yeah, it's at the forefront of our minds every time we get a new client. But yeah, it was really cool. We got to start to meet some amazing people. That was the other reason, like, we decided to do it was I remember us saying, like, we don't know who we're going to meet through this coaching opportunity. We're going to meet so many incredible people from all over the world in all different areas of life. And who knows what's going to come of that. And some of those things are happening daily or monthly now. Yeah. We've worked with people, some of them over a year now, and built really good relationships with them and friendships. And it's just really cool to see. So yeah, coaching has been amazing. We love.
It's just built a community that we didn't know we needed.
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of people in this industry or whatever can sometimes feel pretty lonely, just because it's hard to talk about what, you know, if you do print on demand or Etsy, it's hard for people to relate to, and that's okay because everyone else is doing their own thing as well. But it really did bring that community where we were able to talk about the hardships and the great times, and like, you can do it, and like, let's empower you to be able to take on this, you know, next event season or whatever it was. That's our greatest joy. Like that, even just speaking about it brings me like more joy than I could ever have even thought of. And so, yeah, it's just been, we've been so grateful for it. Just the whole opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely really cool to see. I think the other thing we wanted to highlight, so we started coaching in 2024 in February. So the beginning of that year, we've been doing that since then. So a little over a year and a half now at this point. Last Christmas, 2024, so just under a year into that coaching journey, Jesse ended up flying us out to Inner Circle Prints, where we got to meet the team and we did some filming and some content. And
he brought us to the production site. It was so cool.
Yeah, so cool to just see where all the orders get fulfilled and like the people who do the work and get to say hi to them and meet them. And yeah, I just want to talk like a little bit about that, because I don't think, if you guys are part of Inner Circle Prints, or even if you're going to be joining,
or if you've even watched Jesse on his channel.
Yeah, I don't think you guys get to fully see the other side of it all the time. But yeah, if you've seen Jesse talk, or if you've watched any of his YouTube videos, it's very clear that he's like very genuine, very authentic, like wants to serve people. We hear that all the time from new clients as they come in. They're like, I was just blown away with what Jesse was sharing and how he was speaking on his YouTube videos. And
just how authentic.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah.
And we just wanted to like really highlight that, like, so that was the first time we met him in person, and like, he is very much that same person, but like times 10. He's way more authentic, way more genuine, like such an amazing leader. And yeah. And
his whole team too. Like, behind the scenes of a production company, we've never seen that before in our lives, but to be able to be given that opportunity to fly in and see the production company in the heat of, again, a Q4 season, it was just like the way that he has grown that team and his core team, like, wow, yeah. It's just, there's no words for it. They are special people, and we were so blessed to be able to meet them. And even Jesse's family, like, his family is like the core of his whole life, and even they spread so much joy. Like, I remember meeting his family for the first time, and I was like, I could be with these people all the time.
Yeah.
It was just such a joy. Like, even even in the craziness, we were fulfilling orders ourselves for our own business. Like, but at the same time, like, I cared about that, but I was like in such awe of just like, honestly, what the Lord provided for us and what we've been given, and we don't deserve it. Like, that's the thing. Like, I'm just in such awe with that.
Yeah.
And like the community and just everyone that we've been surrounded by with what Jesse's been able to provide us. So yeah, it's honestly just a huge thank you to him and his team. And he doesn't even know we're doing this part, but yeah, he's just impacted our lives in a way we've never even thought could be impacted. And I know he's done that for many other people too.
Yeah, it was really apparent to us and just reassuring, like not just getting to meet Jesse, but getting to meet like his team, his core team, and how highly they speak of him when not even prompted to do so.
Mind you, they spoke highly of him in front of him.
Yeah.
Okay, so like that is a wild thing.
Yeah,
in life.
without even like being prompted.
Yeah.
And just some of the things they were saying. He's, like I said, just an amazing leader. The type of person who like only sees the best things in people and will like double down and highlight that forever for that person and lift them up. And so, yeah,
and
it was just really cool.
he's also someone too that we knew this a little bit, but even more so, like he wants people to win. Like he lifts people up, and like to be able to have that opportunity to just be able to serve alongside him, like I couldn't ask for another leader to be led by and to follow. Like he's just, it's been so amazing. So yeah, shout out to Jesse.
Yeah. So the other cool part about that trip, so kind of along the way as we started to get to know Jesse a little more through Zoom calls and just preparing to do coaching and all the stuff that was going on, we started to share kind of more just about our faith. And it was very apparent to us that Jesse was a Christian. We're also Christian. And so we started to share just kind of more of that side of us with him. And he was like, yeah, you guys should come to church with me and my family when you're out here. And so we ended up staying a few extra days. We were only supposed to be there for a couple of days to do what we needed to do at Inner Circle Prince, but we stayed through the weekend. We ended up going to church with him and his family. And
breakfast after.
Yeah, and breakfast after before we ended up getting back on the plane. But yeah, that was really cool just to see that part of our journey and the connection we had there. And outside of Jesse, it was like even there were a few other people on that trip. Jesse G, the other coach, Milka, who's one of the Inner Circle Prince students and really good friends with Jesse G. And both of those people, like such strong faith. And it was just really cool to see us like all come together, like obviously at different phases in our faith journeys and our
no
walks.
one knew.
Right. We had never really like talked about that together.
No one really knew, like maybe Jesse G and Milka did because they were closer, but no one else really knew like their background, like faith-wise. It just kind of like started to show.
Yeah, it felt like we were in the right place.
Yeah.
And it was just really reassuring with the community that we had around us and what we were building.
Yeah.
So yeah, we wanted to touch a little bit more on that faith journey. Right before that trip, we had made the decision that we were going to step away from our jobs. And so if we backtrack a little bit, this is mid 2024. We are like, the business is really growing. We've started to do this coaching thing. We're like becoming very overwhelmed with our daily schedule. We're like still running and growing our business, fulfilling our orders daily, coaching a ton of clients at this time. And so
working full time.
Yeah, still working full time. So it very quickly turned into not just being crazy during the Christmas season, but it was like every day during the summer as well.
It was really all we knew, quite honestly.
Yeah. And so we ended up stepping away from our jobs, or making the decision to step away from our jobs. We had just hired someone on our team, our virtual assistant, the first one that we had hired. we had a real business like we've been leading up to, like it had surpassed our income from our our day jobs. And we had been thinking for a while of like, maybe one day we can step away from our jobs. And ultimately we decided to do that last fall. I left my engineering job after 10 years. I left in October, and then Lauren ended up leaving hers at the beginning of January. But we ended up moving from New Hampshire, where we were living, out to Colorado this January, as part of making that decision from stepping away from our jobs. And one thing we haven't really talked about, or we haven't shared on our YouTube yet, or on this podcast, maybe we've talked with some of our students about.
Yeah, but not many of you guys know.
Yeah, so we ended up moving to Colorado when we quit our jobs. We ended up moving here for our church. Mm-hmm. And so we had been watching our church online, Red Rocks Church, which is based in Colorado, for just about 4.5 years, almost 5 years.
We started watching together Easter of 2020.
Yeah.
So that was the first of it all.
Yeah. And really just like had really grown in our own faith journey and matured together, and really started to put more of a focus on faith and the Lord, and making that more the center of our life. And so, yeah, that was the number one reason why we ended up stepping away from our jobs. And that allowed us to move out here and be more involved with the church community, have that in-person aspect. And yeah, so we share that only because Etsy really enabled a lot of that to happen. Us building that business over 4.5-5 years and growing it to the point where it did replace our jobs. It allowed us to make that decision and take that leap and come out here to Colorado. And so we wanted to just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, and I also just want to highlight too, like, the decision that we made was not an easy one by any means. We both loved our jobs. We both loved, it was very hard. I struggled a lot with it. Yeah. I loved my job. Like, if I could have stayed there forever, I would have retired there. I just loved it. I loved the people. I loved who I worked with. I loved who I was able to serve. It was just such a great job. Really so blessed. And so it took a lot of prayer and a lot of discussions. I remember being on a ton of walks, just like, is this the right thing? Like, should we be doing this? Like, is this what the Lord wants for us? Is this what we should be doing with our lives? And it was just, I think in August timeframe, it was so apparent that, like, I had this, like, thought in my head, and I've told Connor about it, that, like, if we follow and pursue the Lord in full, like, in all we do, we will never fail. We will always hit trials and tribulations. That's just part of life. But we will never fail if we follow him. And that was like the core of, I think, our decision outside of praying.
It became really easy from that point of view. We were walking away from a lot of opportunity and leaving
and really
family.
All we knew. I mean, we didn't know anything different other than, working our 9-to-5s and having friends and family nearby. And, but ultimately, like, just the Lord was going to provide so much stuff for us and anybody that once you put your full faith into him. And it's just been so apparent. There's obviously been trials and difficulties, but the blessings have just outweighed it. And it just is, I'm just so grateful we did that. But it's just been a beautiful journey. And just to kind of give you guys a little backstory on how we got to Colorado and how we got to our church, Red Rocks Church, it wasn't like we just threw a dart at the wall and we're like, here we go. I grew up in Colorado. Like Connor said, I'm from here. So one of my good friends from high school just kind of gave me insight on that of, hey, you should check this church out. I think you would really like it. And back at that time, everything happened with COVID. Everybody knows. But it was a really isolating time. And at that time, we were not married at that time. We were living completely separately, an hour away. I was thinking to myself, like, with all that is going on, like, where is the light? Like, where can I find that light? And the only thing that kept coming back to me was like, attend church online and be present with him. Like, be present with the Lord. That was all that kept coming back to me despite everything going on. And it just completely changed my whole life. Like, having that. And then how Connor got involved was like, I just invited him. I was like, hey, like, it's Easter. No one can go to church. Maybe some churches were open, which is great. But at the time, we weren't able to. And he watched, and like, the rest was history with it. And so we just stayed so loyal watching, our church service, and we made our lives around it. Like, that was like the biggest thing for us, was like, it wasn't, oh, we're too busy, oh, this or that. It was, we have church that we're watching right now, and like everything else can wait, was how our mindset came and developed. And so just wanted to give some context about that. So it wasn't like we just, randomly showed up to a church and, we were here. But
yeah, it was many years. And we ended up, we got married back here in Colorado in Lauren's hometown, and had one of the pastors at that time marry us. And so we had already kind of started to build that connection, and it felt like home when we moved out here.
Yeah. And we had always made an effort to come to church in person when we came and visited my family, or when we got married. I remember we got married and the next day we went to church. Like, yeah, I know we sound like holy rollers, but we did. And it was such an amazing time to be able to start that journey, that chapter of our life, like, with the Lord. And so, but every time we just came home and just went to church, I always remember going back to New Hampshire, and obviously I loved it. I love my people there and our family, but I always felt this piece was missing. And I didn't know what it was. But when we came to this decision of, we either go all in on the business or we go all in on our jobs, being able to come and live closer to the church made that decision easy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the other thing I want to just highlight to like tie it all together, because I think it's really cool, and I think it's all related now, but I shared with you guys at the beginning, like, that moment, like when I first started the Etsy business, being on that back patio and just having that thought come to me of like, in 5 years, I want to have to make that tough decision. Like, I want the business to be at the point and to have grown where I have to choose between my engineering job and the business. And honestly, I look back on that now, and it wasn't just like a goal or a thought. I view it more as like a prayer at this point. Because like Lauren mentioned, she introduced or asked me, hey, will you watch this church with me online that Easter of 2020? And that was within like a week or two of when we launched the business. And so it's just really cool to look back and think like, oh, the whole point of the whole business, the whole season that we've gone through now, it was like the Lord like calling me back to him. And so, yeah, it's just really cool to see that, to reflect back on it and see where we are now. So yeah, I just wanted to share that to tie it all together.
Yeah. And I think too, just touching on that, like, he's not only developed our business and like poured into our business, the Lord has. And again, we always say like, we are so undeserving of the blessings that we've been given. And we're just beyond grateful. That's really what we talk about. We pray about that every single morning. But it's really grown us just as a couple, and, as we coach and lead other people and lead our team, our business. We have 2 virtual assistants that are literally like family to us. That is the forefront. Like, how can we serve anyone that we come into contact with the best way that we can? And like, so that just, I think it's really evolved just our whole process and our whole mindset, and it's ever growing, and we really lean into that. We really lean into our faith and our church community now that we're building that. And
so I think that pretty much wraps up what we wanted to talk about today. that the end that we just talked about, that really gives you guys insight into more of our background and who we are as people on the deepest level, I think. And it's why we named the podcast Grace Filled Growth, right? And so we want this to have somewhat of a faith aspect to it.
Yep.
And us to be able to share that with all you guys who are watching. And so this is obviously the first episode, but if you guys have any things you guys want us to talk about, if there's any topics or questions that you guys have, we would love to hear them in the comment section below. We have lots of ideas of future episodes, but we're super open to hearing what you guys want to hear about. We want to serve you guys, and we want to share our experiences and our journey. And so thank you guys all for watching.
Yeah, thank you. And at the end of the day, we want to be able to serve and share alongside you and help anyone watching this not feel like they're on their own island. So, yeah. But leave your comments down below if you guys have questions that you want to ask about from the podcast, if it's related to Etsy, whatever it is. And we will have this be our next discussion on our next podcast.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you.